Hey, I'm back, and with me, another speed art. This one is of the old Green Goblin since I just released his animated evolution on my main channel, and I want to go through and rank each main Spider-Man villain from worst to best. And this isn't going to be including his side villains, as that doesn't really seem fair to rank them among the others, so this will be focusing on the main villains in each film. So let's get started with the worst of the worst. But first I want to thank Skillshare for sponsoring another video. Most odds if you're watching this, you're probably interested in animation or illustration, so Skillshare is the perfect place to really start honing in on that creativity, as well as other creativities. I highly recommend Shaban Tomi's class on character animation, which uses Adobe Animate, the same program I use, and I actually watched through this whole class and was able to streamline some of my own work. It goes through the whole process of creating characters and animation from beginning to end, so it'd be a great place to start as a beginner or brush up on your skills as a semi-professional. Skillshare has so many classes on topics like photography, filmmaking, graphic design, or even cooking, and there are new premium classes added every week. So the first 1,000 people to use the link in my description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. But let's get back to the video. And in last place at number 10 is the Green Goblin as he's portrayed in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I don't even know where to begin with this one. The acting choices by Dane DeHaan are baffling once he transforms. Prior to him becoming the Green Goblin, I'm okay with his performance, it's just not the best. But him teaming up with Electro at least made for some interesting scenes, although the chemistry between him and Andrew Garfield is pretty much non-existent. Like, I thought these guys were long lost best friends, but they act like they're complete strangers, and even the design of him is way too overdone and weirdly gruesome. Feels like they just wanted to make him different enough from the 2002 Goblin, but they went way too far. Now the next character I think had great potential as a Spider-Man villain, but there just wasn't the heart put into him as I feel the other characters. So coming in ninth place is Spider-Man 3's Venom. The look of him here is quite smaller than his comic counterpart, and retains the suit texture of his Spider-Man. And when he's in his Venom form, he doesn't really talk or show much of a personality. They basically have Topher Grace show his face the entire time, and I get it. They paid for the actor, they might as well use him. But I just want to see more Venom. He really comes off as too much of a throwaway villain, only showing up in the last half hour of the movie, and having such a little amount of screen time. So that's why Venom 2007 is much lower on my list than I'd like. Coming in 8th place is going to be The Amazing Spider-Man 2's Electro, and I guess he also appeared in Spider-Man No Way Home as well, which is a much better portrayal, but it doesn't really sync up with anything we know about the character before. He acts like a completely different person. I don't know where this character change could have happened, because he's killed by Spider-Man, and the version in No Way Home is supposed to be just prior to his death, so why is he so different? With that said, I do sorta like his Blue Man Group look when he's wearing his hoodie, but after he puts on his full electric suit, it feels like a little too much to me. But his look in No Way Home is a big improvement overall. I just wish there was some sort of continuity for the character, so that's why I can't really put him any higher on this list. Landing in lucky number 7 is The Amazing Spider-Man's Lizard. This is a character they teased a lot in the Raimi films, and I'm glad we finally got to see him in action here. The CGI is actually really good, although his design is a little iffy, and the fight scenes are top notch, although the evil plan to turn everyone into lizards was really underbaked, although Rhys Ifans does a serviceable job as Kurt Connors. He's also one of the lucky few who got to return in Spider-Man No Way Home. But I think he got the least to do with his role there. I believe it's just a voiceover role and maybe fully CGI, but the shots of him healing were just reuse from Amazing Spider-Man or possibly deleted scenes from those scenes at least. So his return there doesn't really add much to his ranking here, but it doesn't really hurt him either. Coming in 6th place is going to be Spider-Man 3's early antagonist, the Green Goblin, aka the New Goblin, or Green Goblin Jr., with Franco reprising his role as Harry Osborn. Unfortunately, most of this movie he has amnesia and acts super goofy, and then when he finally remembers, he quickly turns good. Although his sacrifice for Spider-Man at the hands of Venom is a pretty well done scene, it was just a bumpy road to get there. And it sounds like I'm probably complaining about him a lot here, but I do think the heart and core of his villain is really well done. It's expertly set up in Spider-Man 1 and 2, and for the most part pays off pretty well here. So that's why the New Goblin comes in at 6th place. And just passing the halfway point for this list is Sandman from Spider-Man 3. He's played competently by Thomas Hayden Church. I think his actions are well explained in the movie. He has a good backstory with his daughter needing medical help, and he needs to commit crimes to get money. Does he go too far? Yes, of course. He's not a good guy, but you can sympathize with him. His rebirthing scene as Sandman is also really well done, and I like when he becomes the giant Sandman in the final battle. The CGI still looks pretty good. Where he loses points is the unneeded retconning of having him kill Uncle Ben. It was just unnecessary lore building. and unfortunately, like the Lizard, he is underutilized in No Way Home. So his appearance there doesn't really add any notches for him on this list. But one thing I will say is at the end where he becomes human again and not made of sand, is just a reused shot from Spider-Man 3. That was probably the cheapest shortcut I've ever seen in a major motion picture. That should not have made it into the final film. And coming in 4th place is going to be the Vulture from Spider-Man Homecoming. This is the first live action version of the Vulture, and the choice to go with a younger version of him was the right one. He's played expertly by Michael Keaton, and his Vulture suit and wings are pretty sweet. You have some sympathy for him at the start because it seems like he's just a blue-collar guy and wants to help his family and keep his workers employed, but he, like all villains, go too far in one direction and takes too much, even accidentally killing some people. But he deserves to be this high for the car scene on the way to the prom alone. Michael Keaton is a tour de force actor, and I hope we get to see more of his character in the MCU in the future. Before I tell you my top 3, let me know what your favorite Spider-Man villains are in the comments. I'd love to know. Rounding out my top 3 is going to be Mysterio, another character who has only appeared in one film, but his actions had a ripple effect into the next film and the entire series as a whole. Jake Gyllenhaal is an amazing actor, and to get him in a Spider-Man film is just a treat. Some of my younger viewers may not remember, but he was briefly considered to take over the Spider-Man role in the early 2000s. But that never happened. So to have him here face off against Tom Holland's Spider-Man now is really awesome. Mysterio uses technology instead of strength to attack Spider-Man, aiming to mentally destroy him, and these sequences are amazing to see. Although they are probably a little far-fetched with how the CGI and everything works, with the trickery they're doing, but that's not really a real thing. The only thing I have against him here is he's just another disgruntled employee or associate of Iron Man, so he doesn't really feel as connected to Spider-Man or Peter Parker as some of the other villains have. Also, I need to mention his suit is amazing here. Such a great interpretation that retains his comic look, but doesn't make him look too goofy. Gliding into the number 2 spot is going to be the 2002 Green Goblin. I thought about putting him in first, but had to save that spot for my next choice. So what can I say about Willem Dafoe that hasn't been said a million times? He just chews the scenery here and has such an amazing screen presence, both as Goblin and Norman Osborn. His Jekyll and Hyde scenes where he talks back and forth with himself in the mirror are some of the best in the movie, and I'm gonna say it, I really like his suit in this 2002 film. He couldn't show his face here because he needs to hide his identity, and the mask they chose was very well designed. He also got a second chance to play the role in the latest film, and his look there builds nicely upon what they started in 2002. And the battle damage look is awesome. He's just as good in No Way Home as he was in the original, plus he got some of the best scenes in that movie. But coming in first place is gonna be Alfred Molina's Dr. Octopus. This is a villain who you really feel bad for when he is taken over by his arms. He loses his wife, and he loses his mind. You get some really nice scenes before his transition when he's mentoring Peter Parker, and it really seems like he wants to do good for the world. So when his arms take over and he puts all of New York at risk, you really hope he can snap out of it. Plus the scene where his arms come alive and take out the doctors is absolutely terrific and totally feels like a Sam Raimi Evil Dead scene. It also hits me every time at the end when he's finally able to regain control and sacrifices himself to save the city. It's such a wonderful moment, and he also got another go at the character in No Way Home. And while he doesn't get to shine as a villain for too long, it's nice to have him team up with the Spider-Man later on. Plus the train sequence where he fights Spider-Man is by far the best Spider-Man action scene we've gotten in the last 20 years. So for those reasons, Dr. Octopus comes in first place. So that is my ranking of every Spider-Man villain. Feel free to leave your own ranking below, and if you haven't seen it, check out the newest video on Untitled Chapter going through Green Goblin's evolution. He has some definitely weird looks that I didn't even know about until I started researching it, so it's a really fun video. I think you guys will really like it, and I want to thank Thomas Downey for joining the Patreon recently. You are the man, and until next time, I've been Aaron, and I'll tell you something later.